Okay, so thank you very much, His Holiness. It's a huge pleasure to be with you. Please sit down and... Okay, I'd like to introduce Marie Besford, who is the person that requested for our audience of old friends. Please go forward.
Your Holiness and Dharma friends.
Microphone.
It's an enormous pleasure, Your Holiness, to have the opportunity just to say a few words to the gathering at the commencement of this reunion with you, and also at the beginning of this dialogue with you. As Jumper said, you may remember that when I was here with the Meridian Trust, when I had the opportunity to ask you on behalf of everybody who was here if you would participate in this reunion with us. And for many of us, it's between 40 and 45 years ago that we were all here taking teachings and participating in the Tibetan community here. And because, Your Holiness, we have all felt our lives to be absolutely touched and transformed by our relationship with yourself and also with the Tibetan people, that we all wanted actually to come back to Dharamsala, to come back to our spiritual home, and to have this opportunity of meeting with you. Over the last 40 years, we have pretty much all attended teachings with you across the world, and we really wanted the opportunity to come back and in a much more informal and more intimate setting to actually have the opportunity of renewing our heart connection with you as our spiritual teacher. So this is the reason we have gathered. And Your Holiness, there, as you probably will know, there are people from all around the world here, and people from all professions, because when we all left Dharamsala, many people went out, started Dharma situations, centres, Tibet support groups. There are Buddhist teachers, meditation teachers here. There are Thangka painters, translators, doctors, lawyers, teachers, psychotherapists. So we've come back because we want to be able to share with you the influence that you have had on our lives, and to be actually able to have a dialogue with you also about the next 20 years, which will take many of us actually up to 80 and 90 years of age if we're lucky enough to live that long. Also in the audience, Your Holiness, is the second generation of Buddhists. So put your hands up, the second generation of young people, so His Holiness can see all of you who've come back to Dharamsala to make acquaintance with His Holiness, and also the children, the third generation of young Buddhists. Stand up so His Holiness can see the children. Where are you children? So you can see, Your Holiness, the influence that both yourself and our Tibetan teachers and the Tibetan community have actually had on all of these people that the second and the third generation have come back to see you. So we're here for this reunion and for this dialogue, and actually, Your Holiness, for a trip down memory lane. for a trip down memory lane. This having old memories with yourself and actually all of our old friends from many years ago. So, thank you.
Okay, and so, thank you. So, for an appreciation of all of our stories with you, Ariana Jones has a testimony and a book of memories she'd like to offer. Okay, and okay, and then also we have this is our official His Holiness and Old Friends card that everybody has, and it has a picture and a bit of poetry from Andy Weber, and so there's an offering for you. And then finally, because I live in Mexico, the Mexicans felt that is Holiness Karmapa has a black hat, and so you needed a black hat. So. Okay, and now I'd like us to start the process. So first, today we're going to be covering 3 different discussions. The first is East meets West. The second one is death and bereavement. And the third one will be about capitalism and the New World. So first I'd like to introduce Kevin Rigby. There's too many things happening. Anyway, Gavin. And Gavin, of course, has been here for more than 40 years. Thank you.
My name is Gavin Kilty, Your Holiness. I lived here 14 years with my wife. I studied at the Tibetan library, and then after that at the Senitrasan, when Genlos Gyatso was there. And now I live in England, where I work for Gentut Jimba as a translator, Beja. So I would like to talk just for a few minutes on the subject East meets West. So many years ago, 40 years ago, as Marie pointed out, East met West. The Tibetan people tragically were forced to leave their homeland and sought refuge in India through the kindness of Prime Minister Nehru, came to India for refuge. At around the same time, in the 60s and the 70s, for many reasons, there was a great interest in Eastern spirituality. Many people had developed a great interest in finding Eastern spirituality. So many of us came out at that time. And when in India, we met Himalayan Buddhism. And I hope I'm right in saying that maybe this was the first time that Himalayan Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, made a significant transmission to the Western world in that sense. And over the past 20, 30 years, this gradual transmission, cultural transmission of Himalayan Buddhism has carried on into the West. And as such, now 30, 40 years on, I would like to pass some observations of where are we now? After 30, 40 years of this transmission in the West, what is the nature of the Buddhist, Himalayan Buddhism, how it has sorted itself into the West. And so, as His Holiness has said many times, practice is something that is very private. It is something within the mind and is not necessarily seen outside. And so I cannot judge what other people's practice is. But there is an external manifestation of the Dharma in the form of the literature, translations, books that have been written, Dharma centers, monasteries, and even in some universities where the Dharma is taught. And these external manifestations of the Dharma are there. They are the visible manifestations of the Dharma, and many who are non-Buddhists, this is their meeting point. This is what they see when they first encounter Dharma. They see this. This is what they see. And so I have some observations, and I have mainly they are doubts. I have no answers. But after 30, 40 years of being in this business, I have some thoughts I'd like to share with you, Rinpoche, and with everybody here, and maybe we can talk about them. For example, if we take...
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, if we take a Dharma center, or a Dharma center, no. To me, in a Dharma center, from my observation, Dharma center is very much like a little Tibet. We go in there, and there are many, it's beautiful, there are tankas and statues all around the place. It is like a sort of mini Tibet. And as such, it is not really a Western tradition. Once I was listening... I don't need...
No, no, this.
Once I was listening to Dalai Lama, who lives in Germany, and he said, you know, now is the time for you Westerners to have your own Buddhism, like Tibet, like Korea, like Japan. Now is the time you must own your own Buddhism. And so it seems to me that maybe he was saying that in our Dharma centers now and in the way that Buddhism is manifested in the West, maybe not so much, I just think maybe not so much do we need to depend upon Tibetan manifestations of the Dharma in the form of tankas and statues. Maybe it is time to develop our own. I was in one Dharma center and there was a Lama Chopa and one Anila, I think it was, when she made an offering, she played guitar. And she played guitar. It was a Western musical offering. And I maybe wonder if that is the way forward. Another thing that I have observed, and this is purely my observation.
No.
One observation I have had is that it seems to me that when we enter into a Dharma center, sometimes our Western mind, our critical mind, our analytical mind, our inquiring mind, it seems sometimes we leave it outside the gate of the Dharma center. And we go in a Dharma center and we are very quick to put our hands together and to have faith and devotion. Faith and devotion in Buddhism, of course, very important. But I wonder, we have a mind, we are reasonably intelligent people, and we have an ability to think and to reason, and I wonder whether we can make use of this Western mind more when we meet Buddhism, so that it is not just something that is put aside and immediately we devote ourselves without question, without thinking, to the teachings and the gurus and so forth. And I think, so that is an observation that I had. Someone said, for example, that science is organized skepticism. Organized skepticism. It is a kind of doubt that is continually sort of evolving, answer the doubt, come to a conclusion, and so forth. And many people, scientifically minded, not scientists, scientifically minded people have come to me and they say, why are you relying upon the words of a man who lived 2,500 years ago? Why do you take these words as if they were writ in stone? Why are you not thinking all the time and developing your own attitudes? I find this question difficult to answer because in Buddhism, His Holiness has often said the ultimate authority is reasoning. But from the outside, it looks as if we also have the authority of the Buddha and the great Indian masters and Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti and so forth, and scripture. These are also authority. But scientists and many scientifically minded people will say the authority should be a continual evolution. And as a Buddhist, I have the greatest faith in the Buddha and the Indian masters. But I have to deal with these questions I have to deal. How are we going to deal with these questions when they come up? We cannot just run away to the mountains and ignore them. We have to face up to these facts. And so it seems to me that East meets West. East, we have the Himalayan Buddhism that we have met here in Dharamsala. West is our critical mind, our challenging mind. These two have to meet somehow in the mind. We have to meet. We cannot throw out, I feel, we cannot throw out our Western mind. And we cannot sacrifice our Western mind to the Dharma mind. And we cannot sacrifice the Dharma mind to the Western mind. There has to be a marriage, a meeting point. Another thing is the literature. I've noticed that over the years, there are many books written about Buddhism. And many of them seem to water down Buddhism, rather like the Indians used to water down the milk in the bazaar. You know. It seems to me that Buddhism has been watered down to suit people. For example, often there is no mention of sufferings, no mention of hell realms, and so forth. And some people say this is good because this is attracting people to Buddhism, and a little Buddhism is better than no Buddhism. But other people say, no, this is not right because we are missing the essence of Buddhism here. We can't just pick and choose. Buddhism is not like a supermarket where we can just pick and choose. And I have to say, I have this problem. I don't know how to answer this because Buddha himself taught different things to different people. So therefore, for the teachers here among you, I'm not a teacher, but for Western teachers here, when you teach Buddhism, how do you deal with this problem? Do you leave out the unpleasant bits and just talk about the nice bits? How do you deal with this? This is something I haven't found an answer to. And of course in West now we have the New Age, which is very popular. And these things are very popular and it's very nice and there's not much about suffering. So that's one thing. And then lastly, authority. Authority. It seems to me that the Buddha Dharma, when it went to the West, is rather like an immigrant, some new person from a culture moving into a new country. When they do that, they are often expected to change, to adopt to their new country. And some people have said to me, many people have said to me, you know, the Dharma must change to fit Western ways. And I'm thinking, maybe we have to change, not the Dharma. But maybe they have a point. But then the next question is, who changes? Who has the authority to change the Dharma so that it fits Western thinking? Western thinking is very advanced these days, for example, in terms it's okay to get angry, it's okay to express desire, things like remorse and regret, shame, modesty, and a lot of these things are not regarded as important, whereas in Buddhism these are changeless. No? So they have been there for centuries. And some people say, no, they must change. You know? But some other people say, no, don't let it change, let it evolve naturally. Dharma will evolve naturally. But then there's danger, I fear, if it evolves naturally, there's a danger of it becoming contaminated, polluted. In ancient Tibet in the 7th, 10th century, when Buddhism came from India to Tibet, there were these very strong kings who made sure that everything was controlled. But we live in a democracy, in a world where the Dharma has spread all across the English-speaking world and the non-English-speaking world. And there is no control. It will evolve and develop in a way that nobody has control. And so I have some doubt, some fear that it may develop in a wrong way. But then on the other hand, should we control it? If so, who controls it? These are some doubts and some questions that I have. And that's it really. And I just feel that now at this point, 30, 40 years later, is it time now? Because we're now going to hand over to a new generation who will get their Buddhism on the internet. They don't have to come to India anymore. They can just go to dalailama.com and download the teachings. And so it's a new generation. Our responsibility, is it finished? I mean, and how should we deal with this new generation? That's all I have to say, Your Holiness. Thank you very much for listening, and if you could respond, I would be more than grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Te pointi ngesne. Pu shu sulendru. Ka. Ndri. First day, I want to express my greetings And many of you, I think, very, very old friend, long-time friend, and unchanging friend. So very good. So and also I want to apologize. You see, suppose we start 1 o'clock, but I have some meeting some other people, so a little bit late. 30, 40, 45 years, as you mentioned. So our body change. Generally speaking, even spirituality or meditation, you cannot stop that. The permanent, sort of, I call it impermanent, always changing, momentarily changing. That is a part of nature. So time always moving. No force can stop that. So now question is, whether we utilize time properly or not. Use time for create more problem to other, and also ultimately you yourself also in deep inside feel unhappy. That's, I think, wrong way utilize time. Right? Other hand, every day, thinking one's own mind and try to make some certain kind of shape, and rest of the day is with that sort of the motivation. And that motivation is carry whole day, and that means, if possible, serve other. If not, at least restrain harming other. That way, here is no differences about profession. So whatever your profession, with that motivation, it can be positive. And days, weeks, months, years, decades, now 45 years, if used that way, then our life become meaningful. At least, you see, we made some sort of contribution at least for individuals, because of the happy mental state. And ourselves also, you see, sooner or later, and will come. Then that day we feel no regret. I use my time for constructive way. So that's important. So I believe many of you, I think, use time on proper way, meaningful way. So that's important. Now your sort of observations, right?
No. See, there were questions.
This is point thought. Meeting east and west. Now last 51 years, my experience. Although I think 30, 40 years ago, this is some occasion I mentioned, or I felt the Eastern, now here mainly India, you see the knowledge about emotion, about mind. I think quite
Sophisticated.
quite detailed, because there is the practice of samadhi and vipassana, both not faith, not devotion, but training of mind. So naturally, any teaching where the practice of samadhi and practice of vipassana, naturally explanation about mind, how mind works, how emotion works. So, and then also in Buddhism, the prajna, or the wisdom, and also in Buddhism, the key sort of the view is selflessness, or anathema theory. So naturally, lot of sort of in order to argue about anathema theory, you need more detailed sort of understanding about ignorance, about distorted sort of view. And distorted view, the counter sort of force only the right view, not prayer, not just mere meditation. So naturally, more explanation about mind there. And then also in Tantrayana, the different level of mental state, awakening state, dream state, deep sleep state, or the state at the faint, at the time of faint. So in the West, of course, the Judeo-Christian tradition, the practice level, same. Practice of compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, and also contentment and self-discipline. All these, all major religion, same. Then, but the way to promote these basic human value, those religions which based on the faith of creator, including those, so the Hindu tradition. You see, because ultimately everything depends on creator, so faith is alone sufficient, very important. Now, like in order to reduce self-centered attitude, faith, tremendous faith to God, creator, you totally submit it to God, that reduce self-centered attitude. Whereas Buddhism, no concept of creator, also Jainism, and also one part of Sangha, no creator. Therefore, oneself make effort, you see, to change our mind. It's not sort of possible through prayer to change these things. So in the West, of course, science come from West. You see, the scientist, most cases, the Judeo-Christian background. So naturally, they are not much sort of pay much attention about mind or emotion, these things. Then also, you see, I have the view. Last, at least, I think 3,000-4,000 years, people, you see, eventually develop religious faith. So whenever we met some difficulties, we always pray. Our hope put on Creator or God, or even I think in Kasota, and generally even you see the faith towards Buddha, when you face, like Tibetan, I think just put faith to Buddha, we completely neglected about our human level actions. So that's why we lost our own country, isn't it? So recently I was in a partner, the Bihar state. You see, they made huge sort of construction of Buddha Vihara, Buddha temple. So some relics also, you see, they sort of acquired from some different Buddhist countries. And also, I also offer one of these relics. So at that function, the chief minister, you see, mentioned that due to Buddha's blessing, the Bihar state will progress rapidly. Then I told him, because I know him, very close friend. So if Buddha's blessing can help to develop, then Bihar state much earlier, much developed, because Buddha's blessing there. But till effective chief minister come, development not take place. So Buddha's blessing must go through human's hand. I mentioned that. So that is fact. So last, you see, several thousand years, I think at least 4,000 or 5,000 years, you see, people, you see, put all our ultimate sort of hope on faith, on God. Now, recent, about two centuries, science and technology develop. Then much of our hope now materialized by science and technology. Last 1,000 years, we just totally, you see, they're relying on faith. Now without faith, concrete result now produced by technology and science. So people, including the East, you see, relying on science and technology, much attraction. It is right. But now, later part of 20th century, now more and more people are getting experience. And there is a limitation, material value. Material provide us physical comfort. And really, you see, I think get some kind of satisfaction on the level of sensorial level, not real mental level. So mental level experience and sensorial level experience, mental level experience are much more serious. Obviously, we ourselves have experience. When our mental state happy, calm, our physical pain can subdue. When mental state, too much pain, too much worry, the physical comfort cannot reduce, cannot subdue the mental state sort of pain. So obviously, mental state is more serious. So therefore, now including medical science, more and more now scientists in that field now realize mental state is very, very important for our health. So recent our meeting with scientists, our slogan, how to create healthy body, healthy mind. So healthy mind very much related with healthy body. So healthy mind, you see, cannot be produced by medicine or alcohol or drugs, no. More illusions, right? So healthy mind also you see, cannot produce by injection, cannot buy from supermarket. So therefore, the healthy mind must develop within the mind from faith, some extent, but no. The real change in mental level, certain conviction, genuine conviction come only through research, investigation. So that's why now these Nalanda masters, I usually describe Tibetan Buddhism is pure Nalanda tradition. That's the basic thing. I also mentioned to our Buddhist groups, including Ladakh. I mentioned Dongpo Kare. Dongpo.
The tree, the
Ah.
trunk of the
Trunk.
No.
And different branches. So Nalanda tradition, like trunk. Then Nyingma, Satya, Gergyu, Gilu, Kadam, Chonang, and all these like branch. So recently I was in one Drupal Gergyu center. Kasa Hong Sand. Kasa Rosa Dale.
No.
Okay.
Vodka.
Ah,
Vodka. Ladakh.
Dozongchi.
Dozong.
Dozong Center. I asked Rinpoche, since Rinpoche have a very good program for study, not only their own monk, but you see the younger Tibetan people, younger Tibetans are also the student. So very good program. So I mentioned like that, you see trunk and branches. So these branches, important. Some special things there, like Dzogchen and Chakchen, Mahamudra, and Satya Lamde, and Sadong Sungju. You see, each one, good. But all related with the trunk. So that's those Nalanda master. I usually describe 17 Nalanda master. So their text. That's the explanation about basic Buddhism. Others is in branches. So on top of this full knowledge about the basic thing, then these sort of special thing add very good, become complete. But neglect about the basic thing, just hold these branches, then sometimes not complete. And also there is danger, misinterpretation, like that. And also, as far as unity is concerned, if we all always go root, no differences. There's too much emphasis on branches, then there are little differences here and there. So now you see the point, East-West meeting. I feel not on religion, not as a religion, but simply the science of mind and Western science mainly focusing on matters. So now last about 30 years, my sort of was the engagement, meeting with scientists. Oh, at the beginning, I think 40 years ago, I expressed to some my friend, who said, I want, I want to dialogue or discuss with scientists. And one American lady expressed to me, science is the killer of religion. Be careful. Then, your sort of presentation also is something sort of connection here. So, I thought, Nalanda tradition, even Buddha's own word, if they found some contradiction with our experiment or investigation, then literally they reject Buddha's own word. Buddha himself also is made clear, "O my follower, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." So these masters, took the liberty to carry investigation even Buddha's own word. So therefore, the Tibetan word,
So which are called the provisional teachings and the definitive ones.
So therefore, I've thought, oh, Nalanda tradition, emphasis investigation rather than faith. And also, you see, the whole Buddhist sort of system is firstly based on reality, today's reality. Then, according to that reality, make distinction, wrong view, right view, and most destructive emotion come from wrong view, grasping, self-grasping way, like that. So all the Buddhists, the Tenpenyi said, true truth. True truth is the sort of explanation about the reality. Because there is always gap, appearances and reality. So many wrong view based on appearances. So in order to prove these are wrong view, we have to investigate what is reality. So on that basis, idea of Four Noble Truths come. If Four Noble Truths is just relying on Buddha's word or Buddha state Four Noble Truths, that's wrong. We have to prove Four Noble Truths, or we have to know the real sort of system, structure of the Four Noble Truths, like that. So therefore, I thought science also is try to seek the reality, the truth. Of course, different field. Buddhists also trying to seek the reality. I think they're implementing the famous Deng Xiaoping statement, seeking truth from fact. So both traditions, through investigation, try to seek the truth, because the fact. So therefore, I thought, there's no contradiction. The scientific way of approach was investigation. Keep skeptical attitude. Buddhism, exactly same.
There in the classic text, there are mentions of 4 points, which are called the purpose of the text and the essential point or the reason and the different connections between the points.
It mentioned the real sort of real sort of audience of these books should those serious audience of these books should have skeptical attitude, whether containing content of this book something relevant our life or not, and for temporary what benefit, for long run what benefit. Unless the serious audience aware clearly these sort of relevance, then follow the text, then follow the teaching, like that. So that's exactly, you see, the Nalanda approach. You see, the person, audience must be skeptical. Skepticism brings question. Question brings investigation. Investigation brings answer. Only that's the logical thing. So in any way, now Western science up to now mainly deal with matters. Pay much less attention about inner mind, inner science. Now among the scientists, some serious scientists now really begin to pay more attention about mind, about emotion, because these are very important, very relevant for our health and the society, and family or individual sort of as a individual way. So therefore, now that's the place where East-West meet. This is my feeling, not religion, just science. Therefore, since our meeting with scientists, our conference with scientists, some people use the word of meeting science and Buddhism. Then I made correction. This is wrong. We are not discussing with scientists about Buddhism, no. Only Buddhist science. So I made distinction, actually 3 parts. Buddhist science, or science come from Buddhist literature, philosophy come from Buddhist literature, and Buddhism. So Buddhism for Buddhist. Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy is the universal. So I feel now already some meeting. Western's top scientists now really paying much attention about value of training of mind. Like Wisconsin University, under the leadership of
Richard Davidson.
Richard Davidson. He already carries some special program about the training of mind, these things. And also Stanford University, last few years. And this time I just visited this area. Oh, their experiment, really wonderful result. And then Emory University. So like that. These are nothing to do with religion. Simply, try to utilize some of the information which come from Buddhist text, use as a scientific method to train our mind, to strengthen our basic good quality of our mind, which come from our mother, like that. So, meeting science, because of modern science, Western science, and East-West meeting, I think that's the proper place. Religion is concerned now. I always make clear, you, Westerner, better to keep your own tradition. Of course, out of millions of people, this is some individual like you, these people. You see, I think some of you in 6 days like happy, isn't it? So a little bit confuse your own mind, and a little bit sort of rebellious attitude towards the existing sort of the situation, including religious faith, isn't it? So you go here and there and here and there, like
You don't have any direction, as if.
Just okay, and eventually you found, you see, some sort of new idea. So okay, if you really feel this is something useful, something helpful, then okay. Like Tibetan, more than 99% are Buddhist, but at the same time, among the Tibetan, there are Muslims, and since 20th century, some Christians also there. So it is possible. Among the Westerner, Judeo-Christian sort of background, some extent Islam, so some of them is in their own tradition, not much sort of effective, and they remain as a non-believer. And meantime, they also a little bit restless, mental level, restless, and then found some Buddhist training of mind, some sort of the benefit. So follow that. Okay, that's an individual right. Now religion, Buddhism, because of
The trunk.
according to the trunk,
No.
the basic Buddhist sort of teaching is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, skeptical. It's very essential. Now, I hope I'm Buddhist, I think. But I have no longer because of the conviction about Mount Meru. No. I think still I am Buddhist. As far as the true truth, Four Noble Truth is concerned, it's something very reality. That really answer for whole sort of cosmic way, cosmic or galaxies, or the Big Bang. We have the reason, sort of some explanation. So that's the real teaching of Buddhism. I think when I was in Kasada, Saw Ashram, that's now 40 years ago. 40 years ago. So one occasion I mentioned, Buddha did not come on this planet making map. No. So whether there's Mount Meru or not, that's not Buddhist business. Doesn't matter. Like that. So we have the sort of liberty to reject Vasubandh's explanation. Like that. So these, we must make distinction. The symbolism,
Yes. Symbolism.
Symbolism
of the teachings.
and like Kala Chakra, as you mentioned, all these is Mount Meru, all these, symbolize human body from here up to
The head, up to the soul of the feet.
like that. So many tantric explanation, related with that. So there is certain sort of meaning, certain purpose.
Symbolism.
So now, if we goes root, no sort of emphasis importance of devotion. If you go these branches, then like Mahamudra or Dzogchen, then Guru Yoga, very important. So that actually is spoiling some of these lamas. These centers become cult. So why? Forgetting basic Buddhist teaching, just these branches. These branches, come like a Naropa, the main teacher of Marba, the Kagyu lineage's main sort of person. Naropa, one of the great sort of scholar of Nalanda monastery, Nalanda institution. Then later, he practiced sort of Tantrayana.
See if I can fit death in, but we'll find out.
Tantrayana, and then he looks like beggar or sadhu, like that. So here, Naropa have the full potential practice these things because he studied all the important texts which available in Nalanda tradition. Okay. Now some of the now the practitioner in the West, among Tibetan also, among the Ladakhi also, without knowing the foundation of Buddha Dharma, whatever lamas say, even lamas say West is East, he or she believe, that's the East. That is against the Nalanda tradition. No. Of course, the person who really fully qualified the basic sort of knowledge about Buddhism, the Lama also, not just high throne now like me, high throne, but real experience very limited. So according to my own experience, now it looks I'm a little bit jealousing these lamas. So you see, I think without a proper full knowledge, They just emphasis in these branches. That creates a lot of misunderstanding. That's important. So that's why I always is telling Tibetans and also Chinese, finish Jimriwe. Finish Sure.
Are there any Chinese? Yeah.
Okay. So, like Japanese or Chinese, I'm telling them, and Ladakhis, or all these Himalayan regions of Buddhist, I'm telling, now we are 21st century. We should be 21st century's Buddhist. That means fuller knowledge about modern education, modern science, all these things, and also utilize modern facility. Meantime, full conviction about Buddhist teaching, about infinite altruism, Changjujism, and the view of interdependency, Buddhism. Then you can be genuine Buddhist. And also with fuller knowledge about modern thing, also belongs to 21st century. Recently, I was in Nubra. On the road, I stopped our lunch. There were some local people came. And some of them we know since I think, almost 20, 30 years ago. So then I chat them. Then I asked, then again I mentioned we should be 21st century Buddhist. The study is very, very important. Then I asked, what is Buddhism? Then they say, Buddham Shanam Gajami, Dhammam Sanam Sangam Sanam Gajami. That's Buddhism. Too simple. Then I asked whether there's differences. What differences? Buddha and Jesus Christ and Muhammad. They say no differences. Oh, not that. As far as a great teacher of humanity is concerned, same. But teaching is concerned, big different.
Yes.
Buddhism is non-theistic. So one day, you say, I discuss with you whether Buddhism is atheism or not. You mentioned, isn't it? Vana Samarve. Check. Check Mare. Yugoslavia. So one time you mentioned atheism means anti-God. Then Buddhism is not anti-God. Buddhism respects all religion. But the atheism, in the sense, no creator, no concept of creator, then Buddhism is kind of atheism, like that. So in the teaching side, philosophical side, big differences. But these, you see, the villager, you see, they felt it's the same, like that. So that reminds me, one time in Tibet, you see, one Lama giving some teaching, and some people ask, where's three jewels? Where's three jewels? Where's Buddha? And he kept quiet a little bit, and then pointing on the sky. Oh, in invisible sky or space, in glass palace.
Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace.
Oh, Crystal Palace. The Buddha with full light remained there. Is it not true? Buddha ultimately here. Isn't it? Buddha nature. Tathagata Garba. So in any way, therefore, I want to share with you, we must go to the real basis of Buddha Dharma. Then on top of that, like you see, main food, rice or flour, or Tibetan case, samba. And then some vegetables, beautiful vegetables, very good. Without sort of subtle way.
No. The main food, the main course.
Oh, just a few vegetables, just a few sort of, other thing, not sufficient. Like that. And that's important. Then Western Buddhism, idea of Western Buddhism. As you mentioned, one lady, one person's Gita survey use. That's perfectly all right. Perfectly all right. You know, the Buddhism originally come from India. And then when reach different places, with sort of, what's it, mixing with local cultural heritage, then it become like Tibetan Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, Japanese Buddhism, like that. Some of the instrument which we Tibetan monastery use not come from Nalanda tradition, but from Chinese side. So the very name, the flu survey.
No,
Demilimbu.
Obu, no.
Demilimbu.
No, it's in Tibetan. It's literally called Galing, which means the Chinese flute. So.
And some of these monastery persons who use that also you see dressed like Chinese. Silly, isn't it? That's not part of Buddhism. That's a culture aspect. So similarly, you see in Western sort of Buddhist community, use modern instrument and some prayer in the tune of Western sort of the song. Okay, there's no problem. But as far as idea of Four Noble Truth and altruism and all these concern, see, 2,600 years ago's human emotion, today's human emotion is same. Buddhism dealing with emotion. So since the people's emotion last, I think, 3,000-4,000 years, I think same. And next few thousand remain same. After 10,000, 20,000, brain some shape, some new shape of brain come, then maybe a little different. That is too far. So our generation and second generation or third generation, no need any modification. Same human brain, same human emotion. That's you can ask scientists, those brain specialists. You see, they say, oh, same brain. At least it's next a few centuries, no change. Like that. So basic Buddhist teaching must be authentic. One time in France, I mentioned the New Age survey. What do you call New Age? Yes, or something. Take something from here, something from here, something from, and then finally, not authentic, like that. It is not good. I think we must keep the real Nalanda tradition. That's very important. Culture aspect change. So like that. So I think all the important point I think I touched.
Yes.
Yes. Ka.
See, it was turned into questions. We got to be careful about that tomorrow. But it was turned into questions.
And about hell, concept of hell. I find very difficult to accept Bosubhante's Abhidhamma mentioned. Under Buddhagaya, the Kasachut, Duo Tondra Nishuna.
20 leagues beneath the Bodh Gaya.
The Yangtze.
There is the hell realm
out of 8.
No, it's fine. I couldn't care less. I thought
Out of the 8 different hell realms.
The Pakse, much longer than kilometer.
Nice.
So, if you go further, then most probably hell existence in America. From directly go there. So, if America is hell, then disgrace.
good joke.
So these are, say, not difficult. You see, they way kasata chabasung thase thong munjur.
Yes. So we have to understand things which are obvious to us with our sensory or perceptions, and then there are certain other things which have to be understood through reasoning, through inference, based on reasoning. And then the third thing, important thing, is that there are certain things which could be taken on the authority of the scriptures.
That means, you see, relying on third person. So I often, you see, telling people, like it's our own birthday. We have no way to investigate what's the real birthday. We have to rely on third person, including our mother. And also, you see, in order to sort of accept the third person sort of description, first we have to prove that third person honest, or reliable, mind normal. So test some other field that third person, you see, mentioned, these which we can investigate. So then the third person, sort of his or her same statement, in those fields we can investigate. We investigate it very correct. Therefore, now this person, truthful, no reason to tell lie, or
Or pretend things. Pretend something.
Then accept the third person's sort of statement. So like that, there's some of sort of very, at this moment, very, very mysterious level sort of some phenomena. We have no experience. Then those experienced person who actually experience, and that also, you see, we can check their sort of writing. We can see, oh, they are writing, according they are writing. These sort of point mentioned according his or her own experiences. And reliable. Through that way, then we accept now such point. For me, beyond my sort of reasoning. Yes.
No.
Intellectual capacity. So I must rely on the third person sort of statement or third person sort of expression, like that. So some of the Buddhist literature sort of explanation, we have to now again according Pramana,
Logic and epistemology.
Epistemology.
Epistemology. There are certain reasons which are called the reason with regard to the positive phenomena and reasons of negative phenomena.
And
then within the negative reasoning, there is one reasoning which is called reasoning where you where the phenomena that you are talking about should be actually perceived. Whereas it should be perceived, you are not able
Mount
to.
Meru. Mount Meru. Sun and moon. Sun and moon, you see, same same level, and going round Mount Meru. So day and night also used to come through that way. So Mount Meru's shadow we actually experiencing. So if we experience its shadow, then that real one we must see. In ancient time in India, including Basuband, he managed to see. He cannot see the Mount Meru, but now we have spacecraft, so must see. So yana nang do rongale 미나인데 마미고로다.
Yes. So therefore, if the Mount Meru were to exist, we should be able to see it. Therefore, since we cannot see it, we can say it's not existent.
되네 겐다미고 사죠래.
Yes. And then there is a
강
reason.
데베 된디기 겐다치. 겐다 미그베 차네. 샤지. 겐다 마미고. 겐다 미그베 땡이 셰그도와.
Yes. And then there is a reasoning where you can prove something by seeing the opposite of what you are trying to prove.
겐다 마미고.
No. And not being able to see what is related with that.
Oh. So these are because of the Dignak and also the Dharmakirti. See, their text is clearly mentioned about these things. So utilize our own sort of Buddhist epistemology.
No.
It easily prove non-existence of Mount Meru. So it's no problem. So like that, in one time in South India, the big gathering about the monk student, I think more than 10,000 monk student. Ngema tungonje kudul.
Yes.
Imba jingdi, chur jingdi, doga. All major monastic institutions, student you see gathered there. So there I mentioned these my view about importance of science, and we must learn science, modern science, and these things I mentioned. And then Mount Meru, these things I don't believe. So then I also mentioned, oh, please don't consider me as an atheist.
Don't consider me as a nihilist.
Nihilist.
So the first day, I explained about these views. You are there. So the first, by sort of teaching, first day, my teaching more on the sort of relation between Buddhist science and Western science. And then second day, then I sort of explain about the Buddhist teaching. 니만 당고데 샤다운데 배사 소리통. 니만 무슨 차발 뭐 말을 샤삼 전대야지.
So the first day seemed like His Holiness was being more innovative in his teaching, and the second day was more traditional, religious.
Like that. So in any way, so I said no problem. No problem. Now perhaps I think some maybe constructive criticism. Of course, among Tibetan also you see this is possible. Particularly those people who doesn't sort of study, right?
No, the philosophy.
These sort of the big text. Then in the West, you see, I've met some people know a little bit, but then felt, oh, full knowledge. Then you see then due to their own sort of limited knowledge, you see certain misconcept, then you see they create. I think there's one I think I can share with you. Immediately after earthquake, sort of great earthquake, right, in San Francisco, one might visit there. So my driver, at that time, not from the state government, state department, the one private was a motor, and then driver, one of the Sanders sort of member who practiced Dzogchen. And I casually asked him, when the great earthquake happened, what do you feel? I asked him, and he mentioned, oh, great opportunity to practice of Dzogchen. I think shock, great shock. So some kind of thoughtlessness. So he sort of feel that's the Dzogchen practice. I think that is quite easy. If you hit then perhaps can practice Dzogchen. Dzogchen, not that easy. I myself used to practice Dzogchen. Oh, very difficult, very difficult. So in any way, therefore, you see, there is sort of saying, little knowledge, kasajisdo.
Knowledge is dangerous.
Little knowledge.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. That also, you see, a little bit truth there. So be careful.
Yes.
Study. And not relying on Lama's sort of instruction. Relying on these authentic book. That's important. Don't rely on my word. Study these, the authentic text wrote by these like Nagarjuna, Arya, all these, you see,
The 17.
Buddhist masters. They, through centuries, they already tested, you see, by those scholars. Once, like the Arya Asanga sort of some writing, argue with some other sort of philosopher. So some Nagarjuna sort of writing, a little sort of criticism from Arya Asanga. And then again, you see, another sort of master, you see, analyze. So these real sort of the great text wrote by these master, they through centuries tested, experimented. So really reliable. And then also, you know, the Toha.
The spiritual songs.
Spiritual songs. There is very sort of individual practitioner like a Naropa or Telopa, or thorough study, they're not in the tradition, then through practice, give up all worldly life, including monastic life, completely sort of
Live as a mendicant. Live like a mendicant. Yogi.
Oh, then you see, through their own sort of experience, some poems. So that, according to their own sort of deep understanding and simple word, so there is danger, misunderstanding. So if the person knows the basic sort of tradition, like Nyingma tradition say, Nyante Rangye Changsim, Kunjung Drembe Tepasum.
Yes. So these three yanas, the Shravaka yana, Pratyeka Buddha yana, and the Bodhisattva yanas, are the
Kunjung Drembe Tepa.
yes, they are based mainly on the understanding of the Four Noble Truths.
Then Triya Upa Yoga, Kudu Rijik Tepa, Sangha Shivshadi.
Nice. And then the three next yanas are Kriya, Upa, and Yana are emphasize on cleanliness, the practice of cleanliness.
Triya Upa Yoga. Then Maha Ati, Wonju Tapki Tepa.
And then the last three yanas are called Maha, Anu, and Adi yanas, which are for the total control of one's mind. Wangyur Tapkitewa. Total control of the methods, practices.
No. The real meaning is let emotion develop. And while emotion there, your mind not become slave of that emotion, but rather rather look the ultimate the nature of the emotion. That's clear light. 저상가 뇽문 냠부 때는 보야면 제 뇽문 깨니 뇽문 샹완도 못도 뇽문 정신을 따야지.
So in these three last yanas, the destructive emotions are not looked at as something which you have to overcome as such, but you look at the nature of these destructive emotions, and see the reality.
So these, you see, on the basis of deeper experience, then different sort of way of practice. So some of the expression from high level who have the kasoda, who already is passing through these sort of kasoda stages, then their expression difficult to practice our level. Like you see, nine stages. Nyandu Rangye Changsim, Trio Uba Yoga, Ma Anu Ati, like that. So these are not easy. So now I think today stop. Now here. So tomorrow, now today, apologize because of that. I spoke. Right. So now tomorrow I will remain silent. So more questions come. Thank you.
It is like a sort of mini Tibet. And as such, it is not really a Western tradition. Once I was listening... I don't need...
No.
Once I was listening to Dalai Lama, who lives in Germany, and he said, now is the time for you Westerners to have your own Buddhism, like Tibet, like Korea, like Japan. Now is the time you must own your own Buddhism. And so it seems to me that maybe he was saying that in our Dharma centers now and in the way that Buddhism is manifested in the West, maybe not so much, I just think maybe not so much do we need to depend upon Tibetan manifestations of the Dharma in the form of tankas and statues. Maybe it is time to develop our own. I was in one Dharma center and there was a Lama Chopa and one Anila, I think it was, when she made an offering, she played guitar. She played guitar. It was a Western musical offering. And I maybe wonder if that is the way forward. Another thing that I have observed, and this is purely my observation. No. One observation I have had is that it seems to me that when we enter into a Dharma center, sometimes our Western mind, our critical mind, our analytical mind, our inquiring mind, it seems sometimes we leave it outside the gate of the Dharma center. And we go in a Dharma center and we are very quick to put our hands together and to have faith and devotion. Faith and devotion in Buddhism, of course, very important. But I wonder, we have a mind, we are reasonably intelligent people, and we have an ability to think and to reason, and I wonder whether we can make use of this Western mind more when we meet Buddhism, so that it is not just
for you. And then finally, because I live in Mexico, the Mexicans felt that His Holiness Karmapa has a black hat, and so you needed a black hat. So. Okay, and now I'd like us to start the process. So first, today we're going to be covering 3 different discussions. The first is East meets West. The second one is death and bereavement. And the third one will be about capitalism and the New World. So first I'd like to introduce Kevin Rigby. There's too many things happening. Anyway, Gavin. And Gavin, of course, has been here for more than 40 years. Thank you.
My name is Gavin Kilty, Your Holiness. I lived here in 14 years with my wife. I studied at the Tibetan library, and then after that at the Senitrasan, when Genlosang Gyatso was there. And now I live in England, where I work for Gen Tutu Jimba as a translator, Peja. So I would like to talk just for a few minutes on the subject East meets West. No. So many years ago, 40 years ago, as Marie pointed out, East met West. The Tibetan people tragically were forced to leave their homeland and sought refuge in India through the kindness of Prime Minister Nehru, came to India for refuge. At around the same time, in the 60s and the 70s, for many reasons, there was a great interest in Eastern spirituality. Many people had developed a great interest in finding Eastern spirituality. So many of us came out at that time. And when in India, we met Himalayan Buddhism. And I hope I'm right in saying that maybe this was the first time that Himalayan Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, made a significant transmission to the Western world in that sense. And over the past 20, 30 years, this gradual transmission, cultural transmission of Himalayan.
Okay, so thank you very much, His Holiness. It's a huge pleasure to be with you. Please sit down and... Okay, I'd like to introduce Marie Besford, who is the person that requested for our audience of old friends. Please go forward.
Your Holiness and Dharma friends.
Microphone.
It's an enormous pleasure, Your Holiness, to have the opportunity just to say a few words to the gathering at the commencement of this reunion with you, and also at the beginning of this dialogue with you. As Jampa said, you may remember that when I was here with the Meridian Trust, when I had the opportunity to ask you on behalf of everybody who was here if you would participate in this reunion with us. And for many of us, it's between 40 and 45 years ago that we were all here taking teachings and participating in the Tibetan community here. And because, Your Holiness, we have all felt our lives to be absolutely touched and transformed by our relationship with yourself and also with the Tibetan people, that we all wanted actually to come back to Dharamsala, to come back to our spiritual home, and to have this opportunity of meeting with you. Over the last 40 years, we have pretty much all attended teachings with you across the world, and we really wanted the opportunity to come back and in a much more informal and more intimate setting to actually have the opportunity of renewing our heart connection with you as our spiritual teacher. So this is the reason we have gathered. And Your Holiness, there, as you probably will know, there are people from all around the world here, and people from all professions, because when we all left Dharamsala, many people went out, started Dharma situations, centres, Tibet support groups. There are Buddhist teachers.
Himalayan Buddhism has carried on into the West. And as such, now 30, 40 years on, I would like to pass some observations of where are we now? After 30, 40 years of this transmission in the West, what is the nature of the Buddhist, Himalayan Buddhism, how it has sorted itself into the West? And so, as His Holiness has said many times, practice is something that is very private. It is something within the mind and is not necessarily seen outside. And so I cannot judge what other people's practice is. But there is an external manifestation of the Dharma in the form of the literature, translations, books that have been written, Dharma centers, monasteries, some monasteries, and even in some universities where the Dharma is taught. And these external manifestations of the Dharma are there. They are the visible manifestations of the Dharma, and many who are non-Buddhists, this is their meeting point. This is what they see when they first encounter Dharma. They see this. This is what they see. And so I have some observations, and I have some, mainly they are doubts. I have no answers. But after 30, 40 years of being in this business, I have some thoughts I'd like to share with you, Rinpoche, and with everybody here, and maybe we can talk about them. For example, if we take...
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay. So, if we take a Dharma center, or a Dharma center, no. To me, in a Dharma center, from my observation, Dharma center is very much like a little Tibet. We go in there, and there are many, it's beautiful, there are tankas and statues all around the place.
Meditation teachers here, there are tanka painters, translators, doctors, lawyers, teachers, psychotherapists. So we've come back because we want to be able to share with you the influence that you have had on our lives, and to be actually able to have a dialogue with you also about the next 20 years, which will take many of us actually up to 80 and 90 years of age if we're lucky enough to live that long. Also in the audience, Your Holiness, is the second generation of Buddhists. So put your hands up, the second generation of young people, so His Holiness can see all of you who've come back to Dharamsala to make acquaintance with His Holiness, and also the children, the third generation of young Buddhists. Stand up so His Holiness can see the children. Where are you children? So you can see, Your Holiness, the influence that both yourself and our Tibetan teachers and the Tibetan community have actually had on all of these people that the second and the third generation have come back to see you. So we're here for this reunion and for this dialogue, and actually, Your Holiness, for a trip down memory lane. for a trip down memory lane. This... having old memories with yourself and actually all of our old friends from many years ago. So, thank you.
Okay, and so, thank you. So, in appreciation of all of our stories with you, Ariana Jones has a testimony and a book of memories she'd like to offer. Okay, and then also we have this is our official His Holiness and Old Friends card that everybody has, and it has a picture and a bit of poetry from Andy Weber, and so there's a